So this is the Field75 HE edition, Hall Effect edition mechanical keyboard by NuPhy. Was it NuPhy? Anyways, this has got to be one of the coolest looking keyboards in the market. And best of all, it really does perform in giving you that competitive edge when it comes to online first-person shooter gaming. So let's go into the review, and I'm going to talk about the software, the actual physical layout of this keyboard, and I'll give you my review near the end of this video. So let's get right into it. All right, so let's talk about the first thing I really noticed, and it has this handle. And this is a very heavy, hefty keyboard. It just feels really solid, made of this really high quality plastic. Obviously, keycaps are amazing. The RGB light is really strong, doesn't have any coil whine or anything like that when you put it at max brightness. This has been an issue with other mechanical keyboards, and it just looks very unique and splendid. But it also is a really smart keyboard layout. Let me explain why. So let's put the keyboard on the table over here. Now, I want to talk about these macro keys on the side over here. One of the things I really like about this is that they're not raised. So many different keyboard manufacturers, when they create these macro keys on the side, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples, they just make it at the same height as the rest of the keys. So as a very competitive gamer, you want to be able to feel that control key, because control, is obviously used for crouching and certain like CS2, which I play a lot. So when I had a keyboard with macro keys that were at the same height as the other keys, like especially the control key, it made it so hard to find my reference point of where the control key was. And this is something I could never get used to. I would always hit the wrong key by accident. So I actually ended up removing the two keys on the side over there. Thank God I can remove them to get that kind of more desired behavior. So they did a really smart design by making these more flat, and they feel really good to press. So it's not going to interfere with your gaming. So kudos to NuPhy for making such a smart design choice. Now, this is obviously a 75% layout, and I think that hits the sweet spot when it comes to giving you enough keys, but also still having a very small footprint on your desk. This is still a relatively big keyboard because, it has a lot of this extra functionality on the side, which, is a good trade-off. But what I really like about this keyboard is how easy it is to go to the arrow keys. And this is so important if you're going to be, programming or editing or whatever. Having these dedicated arrow keys are so important when it comes to manipulating text. And I love the fact that I don't get confused if sometimes they have the arrow keys within the cluster of the enter key on the far right side, but it can be a little bit hard to navigate there because you can't really feel the difference. But these are very obvious and they feel like just a regular TKL keyboard. So amazing design choice there. This is like such a great layout. It eliminates kind of like the stupid TKL layout where you have like more of a home navigation cluster on the far right side. That's just wasted space. I like that they make it more compact here, and it just looks absolutely stunning. I mean, these keycaps, the design, you don't have to go and build your own keyboard. This looks really cool. Now, this thing over here switches between the different profiles, and it's a little bit difficult to press. It's not the easiest, but that way you can go from Mac, Windows, or some other profile. Now you have a volume knob over here, and you can even press it to mute something. So I can mute so you can see the volume key over here, really fast and easy, and then I can mute just like that. Another functionality is this one over here on the top left corner. This controls your lighting. So you can turn the intensity of your brightening. You can toggle between different LED patterns and whatnot like that. So I really like having a dedicated knob to change the specific colors. It's better than having a dedicated key binding. It's just a nice little touch, and it just really adds to the whole elegance of this keyboard. Now, all these macro keys on the side over here, they can be programmed to anything that you want. Maybe you have some in-game functions or whatever you want. These are like by default media keys and whatnot. So those feel really good to press, but that's the sound. One thing that really caught my eye with this keyboard is the key cluster. So let's say you're typing, and this is something that I'm used to with more fancy, like these type of really expensive keyboards here. You have these key clusters over here, and you can press them and whatnot. So this one has even a better implementation because you get 4 key clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they feel really good to press. They have a nice kind of tactile sound. Now, I do wish that they would split up the keyboard into two spaces, because I'm so used to having a split keyboard thanks to this split ergo keyboard, and I love using the right side as a backspace. So that's one little thing I really do wish that, in fact, I wish someone would manufacture a split ergonomic mechanical keyboard that was using Hall Effect switches. That would be the end game keyboard for me. But yeah, I would love for them to split up this keyboard into the future iterations. Still have your shift key, all your control keys over here, your function. some people really need function rows, you know, accountants and whatnot. Maybe you have your auto buy keys on the F3. It's all there. And then you have this custom key over here. This is a light indicator to give you things like caps lock and what kind of mode you're in. And like all good keyboards, the USB-C is on the left side so that it doesn't interfere with your mouse. And that's a very important feature of having a keyboard that makes sense. Now, one thing that I really like about this keyboard is that it has a pretty neutral profile. It's almost like there's almost no slant to it at all. And that is a very, very good thing. Let me explain why. So I have the Wooting 60HE, and one of my pet peeves with it is that it has a default 6-degree angle, and that kind of caused my hand to tilt a little bit too much more than I want. Now, it's not that much of a positive tilt, but I didn't really like that. And I really like that this keyboard is very kind of neutral. It does have a slight slant by default. And if you want, I never know why people want this, but you obviously have these kickstands. It's only one setting, and that really increases the angle, the positive tilt. And I don't recommend doing that because that's going to cause more pain in your wrist because you're going to kink it. I'm exaggerating here, and that's not good. You never want to do that because sustained periods, you're going to cause carpal tunnel syndrome. Like the little fibers that control all your hands just go through this little tunnel. You want to take care of that. So no harm in just turning them off and then putting it back. Very, very comfortable. Now the keycaps feel really, really good, nice. These are magnetic white Gateron switches. They are fantastic, very buttery smooth. Like if I press them, it just sounds so good too. This is a really high quality sounding keyboard. It just feels on the likes of the Wooting keyboards. The build quality is just absolutely amazing. Very sturdy, no kind of cheap rattling that you would get from those big box manufacturers like SteelSeries or Razer. All right, so let's talk about the software. Now, this is a huge positive thing. First of all, the software is entirely web-based. That's right, you heard me. You have no software that you need to install, no third-party software. It's not going to be spyware or anything. It automatically just loads onto any browser, Chrome browser, connects through USB, and best of all, you don't need to have this running in the background. Now, one of my biggest pet peeves with like Razer, SteelSeries, all those big box, Logitech, they just have these really slow, crappily programmed softwares that run in the background, eat your system resources. And in some cases, you actually need the software to run in the background for your special keys to work and stuff like that. Well, thank goodness this is not the case. All keyboard manufacturers should just stop putting all their advertising and their bloatware and trying to jam pack one solid software. So anyways, that's a big rant. I apologize, but I'm so glad that NuPhy did the right thing and made it so that it's web-based. Now, this software is absolutely very, very intuitive, very nice layout. It makes it very easy to understand. So I'm going to go back to Windows. I was actually in the wrong profile. I just twisted it there. So you can see I'm in my Windows profile. So all these things can be controlled. So like previous, next, like these side keys over here, the bottom keys over there. You can have different layers. So you can hit your function and then you can get even more functionality. So you just get all the functionality you need. For example, I like to bind my caps lock because caps lock is such a underutilized keys from legacy keyboards that you never need a caps lock. So bind it to something more useful, like say, for example, escape. So I'm going to take my escape. Where is escape? And you just drag it on. Now, this is a really cool key right here. So I have a mod tab, and this is something that you see a lot of other keyboard manufacturers do. You can bind it so that when you press the key once, you just tap it, it's an escape. But if I hold it, it's going to be enter. And you can see it by that over here. So what you want to do is go to mod tab, right click it. So what I really like about the mod tab is that I can actually assign a function layer to the hold command. So that gives you so much possibilities. So in order to do that, you go to special characters, and then you're going to find your layers over here. They're called FN. Let's say I want FN6 over here. And then now I can have a lot more cool functionalities. So mod tab is not the only advanced type of key binding you can make. And you can have things like toggle key. That's actually a really cool feature where instead of having to hold shift the entire game, where if you want to walk in CS2, you can just toggle it by pressing it once, or you can hold the shift and then it's still just as it's working like a normal shift. And when you let go, you've effectively let go of the shift. So dynamic keystroke is another cool one. This is very commonly used if you have your character. Let's say you're controlling like a character and there are multiple modes of them walking. So I'm going to just demo this with numbers. So here I'm going to assign it to 1, 3, and then 4. And let me explain how this works. And I'm going to assign them. So this keyboard goes from 0 to 3 millimeters. So in the down direction, you can see that this is the down direction and that's the up direction. As I press on the key, once I hit the 1 millimeter actuation point, it's going to send the command 1 to the key. And if I go down to the bottom, I bottom out effectively to 3 millimeters, it's going to send 2. And then as I let go from 3 to 2, it's going to send 3. And then as soon as I release the key, I went from all the way from 0 to 3 and then 3 back to 0. I send 4. And what I like about the software is that once you make a change on the software, you don't have to hit Control S or save or anything like that. It's kind of annoying to have to do that. So let's test it out. So let's assign that to my delete. Okay, I assume that's save. So now I'm gonna hit delete. I'm gonna press this 1. Oops, sorry, went too fast. 1, 2. So I went from 1 to 2. Now I'm gonna let go slowly. Now I'm at 3. I'm at the 1 millimeter, and then I'm gonna go at 4, just like that. Now let's go into the setting that is most important, and that's the trigger settings. And this is how you control the performance. So what I really like about this software is that it offers you bulk operations. And what you typically want to do when you set your profile for your trigger settings is that you want to set all the keys to, let's say, a base configuration. So I'm going to hit select all, and then I'm going to set it to 2 millimeters. And 2 millimeters is kind of like what the default industry standard is when it comes to more basic keys like mechanical keyboards like a Cherry MX Red Switch. 2 millimeters is quite good. And then from there, I can select specific keys, let's say my WSD, and I'm going to do select inverse. It's just a nice operation. You don't have to be that fancy. You can just do cancel all and then select these specific ones over here. And then from there, I can set my actuation point. So in this case, I'm going to set it to about 0.5. And that's one of the things you probably want to do is set it to less than 2 millimeters. I mean, you're paying for this keyboard. You want to take advantage of the feature the fact that you can go to a specific actuation point that is much less than 2 millimeters. Now, you don't want to go too low because then it might be a little bit weird and a little bit uncomfortable, but I found 0.5 to be pretty good, especially in CS2. And then you want to enable rapid trigger, and rapid trigger is really, really cool. I definitely recommend doing that because basically the way it works is that I'm going to show you with this demo over here. So I'm going to press the key. You can see that the orange is showing that I'm going down to my actuation point pretty fast. Like at 0.5, I'm already hit it. But the thing is, without rapid trigger, if I turn it off, what happens is that if I go all the way down, the key is not going to be let go until I go all the way back up to 0.5 and then let go. Now with rapid trigger, you're going to set your sensitivity based on a relative point from where you are in the key within the keystroke. So let's ignore the deactivate. Let's just assume that they're the same. So let's say I go all the way down to, maybe all the way down to 3.5, let's just say, or it's almost like 3.6. That's actually the key distance. So if I let go of the key, I depress it by 0.5. That means the key is already let go. It's reset. And then if I press it again, let's say I go down and I press it again from here, that means I've activated the switch again. So like it can be basically, it's all relative. Instead of having to go all the way back, I mean, a traditional keyboard, you're going to be stuck at 2. So let's go to 2. So the distance from here to activating that switch can be life or death in a 1v1 situation. So this is why I can really feel the difference, the responsiveness of my character as I play in CS2, such a big difference. But worst of all, you go down here, you have to go all the way back here to reset. And that's just like a long distance, constantly having to do that. And I noticed that when I'm counter strafing from side to side to slow my character so I can get an accurate aim with opposing keys A and D, left and right, I find that having the rapid trigger really makes a big difference. I just find that you're able to time the time when you shoot your gun and the time when you hit the opposing key so that it all just happens a lot faster. It's just way more intuitive. It feels really good. So all these other settings for rapid trigger, you can customize them. I just don't want to customize them to the nth degree, but just keeping these consistent, like 0.5, kind of like near the same, I find that really helps. Now, this is a really good piece of software, right? You can automatically save your progress automatically as you change these settings. So you can alt tab between your game, let's say CS2, test it out in a demo environment with no one shooting at you, and you can see what works best for you. Eventually, you'll find out like, okay, these are the settings I really like. And then continuous rapid trigger, it says by default this is disabled. I think that's the whole point of having rapid triggers, to not have this type of behavior. So I just keep it disabled, and that's totally fine. So in this case, I should probably disable that. Just keep it at 0.5 so that the sensitivity is both the same. That's pretty much it for the performance. And then let's move on to the lighting effects. I have to say, the RGB is a very strong point with this keyboard. You definitely want to take advantage of it. So you can switch between all the cool different effects. So like, let's go to ray, and it can go pretty bright. Let me just turn off my light so you get a sense of what it's like. So I can turn it all the way down, all the way up, and no coil whine at all. Just really, really great programming over here. Now, one of the things I'm surprised that this keyboard is missing is that it doesn't have macros. I can't find it anywhere in the software, so maybe they're going to bring it out in a software update, but that's one little bit of a surprise. All right, so that basically wraps it up. I have to say, this is a very cool, beautiful looking keyboard. I think you're going to get a lot of eyes on it. I love the fact that you have all these extra keys. It's still super compact, being a 75 key layout. I love the dedicated arrow keys over here. The performance is amazing. Of course, you're having the Hall effect magnetic switches that allow you to customize the actuation point and have that rapid trigger for that very responsive gameplay. In 1v1 situations, I can really feel that more accurate shooting thanks to my increased ability to do counter strafing and to stop my character really, really fast. It just feels way more intuitive. And I think this is how gaming should be. You shouldn't have to deal with the physical lag of having your actuation point at a fixed distance of, quite big, 2 millimeters, and in some cases even higher than that. I love the fact that it uses a web-based software, no bloatware or anything like that. And like I said, the LED lights look magnificent. So definitely check it out. I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.